back to another video reaction, and today we're going to be reacting to the Napoleonic Wars by Oversimplified. I've seen a few oversimplified videos, but I've never reacted to any of them. So this is going to be the first one that I'm officially reacting to. This just dropped, so it's kind of still new, and I don't know much about Napoleon. Okay, here's what I know. I know he was French, and he tried to take over Europe, and that's about it. Don't get me wrong, I do read history, but this one kind of always skipped past. I don't know why. So I'm hoping Oversimplified kind of explains it as simplified as possible, so I can catch up a bit on my history. So without saying much, let's get into this video.
This video was made possible by NordVPN. Stay safe online by clicking the link below and get a huge discount off a 2-year.
Also remember, guys, if you haven't seen the original video, check out on Oversimplified channel and react to it first before this one. So let's get into it.
And maybe even a little behind the scenes content. Okay, Mrs. Bonaparte, this is it. One last push and we're done. Congratulations, it's a general. Oh,
and he was born just like that.
The rest of the army now. Did you just say the rest of the army?
Why? If this really happened. Oh, it's just war, war, war. Napoleonic Wars.
History is full of great conquerors, many with very impressive origin stories. For example, Alexander the Great was the son of a king. Julius Caesar came from an aristocratic family that descended from a goddess. Great conquerors don't usually come from relatively insignificant families living on impoverished islands. But as it just so happens, that is where our story begins.
Okay.
In the early 18th century,
Corsica.
Corsica was a part of the Republic of Genoa until one day Corsica said, hey, we're declaring independence, and it's probably not worth your time to try and stop us. So Genoa said, you're right, it isn't worth their time. Hey France, you want to buy this island? And France said, sure thing. And thus, Corsica became France, just in time.
Okay, so they bought Corsica.
Many Corsicans didn't appreciate their new conquerors, however, and from an early age, Napoleon developed some fairly anti-French sentiments. Napoleon's dad, however, quickly embraced his new French overlords, which created some tension between dad and son. Ooh,
so dad liked the French.
I wear powdered wigs and silver-buckled shoes, and I'm a traitor to the Corsican people. Go to your room, Napoleon. No, you go to your room, Dad.
To your dad?
Okay. On the other hand, Napoleon adored his mother, who was definitely the disciplinarian of the family. And even though she would punish Napoleon severely, he kind of respected that. But Napoleon's parents wanted the best for their family, and since they were a very minor nobility, they were able to have Napoleon sent off to the shining lights and rat-infested sewage puddles of the big city. Napoleon went to military school in France. Okay, Napoleon, why don't you introduce yourself?
So he still went to France.
Well, I'm Napoleon, and I hate all of you. Your farts smell like cheese, you can't pronounce the letter R, all you do is go on strike, and you call eggs hoofs like a bunch of big dumb idiot dingleberries.
Not to your classmates.
Okay. Thanks, Napoleon.
Can't someone tell this boy not to do?
He was. They picked on him for his Corsican accent, his family's lack of wealth, and it probably didn't help that he also had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. But he could hold his own, and on an average day, might be found dishing out ratatouille.
You see that, guys? When you bully people in school, you never know who you're bullying. Most of the world's most infamous people at some point in their lives have been bullied at some point, either by friends or by even their parents. Anyway, let's continue. Sorry, Napoleon.
Sandwiches for breakfast. He spent much of his time alone, and he loved reading about the great conquerors of history. He learned about Julius Caesar, and he wondered if one day he too might have a pizza franchise named after him. He excelled at math and geography, and when he graduated at the age of 16, he was made second lieutenant in an artillery regiment. Now, second
straight into the army.
Pretty sweet to a screw-up like you, but Napoleon had a little something called ambition. stonks of it, and he wasn't content being just some junior officer. He wanted to rise the ranks. Unfortunately for him, that would be a little difficult. Well, Napoleon,
Why?
I've reviewed your application. It's clear you're very skilled and would be a perfect fit for the promotion. And Simeon, you're just about the biggest idiot I've ever seen.
Who is
Your
Simeon?
test results suggest you have the mental aptitude of a senile earthworm, and in the part of the form where you list your experience, you seem to have drawn a picture of a gerbil giving birth to a shoe. But your dad is the Marquis de la Fayette, so...
Was this a real person?
French society was just too closed off. Positions were handed out based on nobility, not talent, and the young Napoleon probably felt stuck.
This is still the problem in other countries today, where, I don't know, is it aristocracy or oligarchy, I don't know, where you give people jobs for, I don't know, for their backgrounds. If they have, if they're from wealthy backgrounds or backgrounds of people with high social standing, they get the jobs. I live in Nigeria, I know. You don't get the jobs based on your talents or, I don't know, how intelligent, or even your first class certificate. No, you get the jobs based on who you know. And it seems like this has always been the problem. What year was this?
Wouldn't it be nice if, say, a revolution came along and changed all of that?
Ah, France and revolutions.
The French Revolution is here. Bastille toppling, head chopping, king popping. The revolution promised to do away with the old social hierarchy and make everyone a little more equal. Napoleon may not have cared much for the violent mobs, but if it meant he could rise the ranks, he was in. He began fighting to defend the revolution. He put down a British-sponsored counter-revolution in Toulon and got promoted. He put down a royalist uprising in Paris and got promoted. And as his
He did have
military
ambition.
prowess became more recognized, he was even given his very own army. It was
Wow.
astonishing progress for such a young man of humble origins, and Napoleon's wildest dreams were coming true. But Napoleon also believed he could increase his social status if he married an older rich lady. And so around this-
Wait. Older rich lady. Isn't this what we're fighting against? I thought he didn't... Isn't this what the France were trying to... I mean, isn't this what the French people were trying to, I don't know, put down? Where you marry because of social standings? Okay, let's see who he gets married to.
This time, Napoleon went on the prowl. However, if some sources are to be believed, he was a
Napoleon was so ugly, and overall sickly effect was created by his thinness and yellow complexion. Now, how do you want him to feel about this? Laura Permon. Okay, this was during Napoleon's time, right? Wow.
by creep. He reportedly had terrible luck with women, and most wanted nothing to do with him. Fortunately, he eventually met Josephine,
He's not
an
that
Asian single
ugly.
mother who was deeply in debt and needed stability, so she agreed to marry him despite finding him intensely disgusting. Napoleon, you dirty dog, you've done it. Unbeknownst to Napoleon, however, Josephine had a bit of a promiscuous reputation. Hey Napoleon, I hear you're marrying Josephine. Boy, she sure is a great kisser. That's right. Hey, wait, what do you mean she's a great kisser? Hey Hugo!
Don't
you
say
think
that
Napoleon's
to
marrying
him.
Josephine? Wow, she sure is a great kisser. Now hang on just a minute. Hey everyone, Napoleon's marrying Josephine. Oh,
She's a great
wow.
kisser.
Yeah, she's real good at kissing. I'm pretty sure.
Is she kissing everybody?
Sake, is there anyone here who hasn't kissed my wife?
Me.
Yeah, you.
Oh, no. Oh, God, no. Don't do my boy like that.
As Napoleon fell madly in love with his new wife, she
He's in love
fell
with
madly
her.
in love with a man named Hippolyte.
Wait, let me take this back.
Wife. Yeah, you. As Napoleon fell madly in love with his new wife, she fell madly in love with a man named...
Hippolyte. Okay. Is it the drawing? Or this is how... Because I know they draw the pictures a bit based on how they really look in real life. Because this guy is ugly. This guy is uglier than... Wait, I don't even think Napoleon is ugly, but this is an ugly guy. Manly, but ugly. And his name is Hippolyte. Hypocrite.
Hippolyte. It wouldn't be long, however, before Napoleon would leave home and go to war. because while France was having its revolution, tensions in Europe were rising. Hey, Austria, you'll never guess what we just did. What's that, friends? I got 2 words for you. Revolution. We totally just socked it to our monarchy. What? Dude, the rest of us are monarchies. You just totally threatened the balance of power in Europe. Now we have to worry about our stinky peasants rising up against us. I mean, holy hell, you're queen. Okay, friends, this is pretty awkward. And the rest of Europe is probably itching to give you a wedgie. But you're not ready for a war yet. So you gotta be cool, man. It's absolutely crucial that you say something to defuse the situation.
Say something.
Right now. Preposterous. I declare war. Sacre bleu! So France ended up at war with basically the rest of Europe, and the war of the First Coalition began. At first, France struggled, but then they started to do surprisingly well, and in many conquered territories, they began to establish sister republics, exporting their revolutionary ideas across Europe. In 1796, they planned a 3-pronged attack to take Vienna and knock Austria out of the war, with 2 magnificent armies in the north to kick ass, and Napoleon in the south as a bit of a diversion. For the first time, Napoleon would lead a military campaign. This was his chance to prove himself.
Let's go, Napoleon.
And what a general he proved to be. The army he was given were demoralized, lacking equipment, and underpaid. But Napoleon galvanized them with inspirational speeches, and he took them into Italy. He was
See that?
And his campaign was...
Even if he's sickly, he's ugly, well, at least he knows how to inspire some people. Okay, not everything's about appearances, guys.
It's partially meant to be a side show, but he made it the main show. While the 2 northern armies were being held back, Napoleon made staggering progress. In a signature Napoleon move, he masterfully split his enemies into 2 and took them on separately, knocking Sardinia out of the war and putting the Austrians on the run. At the famous Battle of Lodi, he was in the fray, aiming the cannons himself, getting covered in mud, and earning the total respect.
See, he's even fighting the battles himself, not just calling the shots.
An almost suicidal assault on the only bridge in town, his men threw themselves at it and took it despite fierce Austrian resistance. For Napoleon, it was all he needed to confirm that he was the greatest human who had ever existed.
I foresaw what I might be. Already, I felt the earth flee from beneath me, as if I were being carried into the sky. Is this the guy that you said was ugly? This guy isn't ugly, except this is another guy. This guy is okay. Okay.
Wow, Napoleon, you're pretty great at this military stuff. Just be careful your head doesn't get too big. What did you just say to me, you little prick? And as Napoleon slept through northern Italy, the Italians...
His head is already big.
Yes, I'm here to liberate you from your cruel Austrian oppressors. And replace them with French ones. Napoleon plundered as he went, sending riches back to France to help its economy, but also paying his men the first real money they'd seen in years.
Okay, now you're acting a bit... Can I call this corruption? Why are you replacing one oppressor with another potential oppressor and collecting money from them? Like, I understand the army would at least at some point want real money, you know, like real paper money, but anyway, don't do it at anyone else's expense.
The Pope had been supporting the Austrians, so Napoleon briefly went to go give him a slap, and as he began to approach Vienna, the exhausted Austrians were forced to make peace, with Napoleon overseeing negotiations himself. He had just single-handedly knocked Austria out of the war, and by the way, he was only 28.
He's good looking.
You moved out of your dad's attic. In the Italian territories he had conquered, Napoleon established new French sister republics, even writing constitutions and organizing governments himself. Not
By
something a
himself?
general generally does. When he got back to France, he was hailed as a hero and the extremely unpopular.
Well, and where people... He's a general, why is he writing constitutions himself? You're not a monarch, you're not a president. Wait, did I read that he later became corrupt? I'm trying to remember. I remember he got banished in, I don't know, later in his life, but I don't remember what he got banished for. Was it corruption or was it for mismanagement of power? Let's find out.
Were concerned he might get some power-hungry ideas, so they agreed he should go far away from France to Egypt, where he could maybe undermine British access to India.
He was in
Napoleon was
Egypt.
eager to win more glory, so he brought with him a team of scholars, and he was like, whoa, it's a freaky man cat. Whoa, it's a big stick. Whoa, it's an ugly horse. Whoa, it's a stumpy little manlet. Hey, I'm actually average height for the time.
For the time, Consolation Prize.
And an Anglo-Ottoman force defeated him at Acre, so Napoleon abandoned his men and went back to France. His
You
campaign
let...
in Egypt hadn't gone quite, but then
Why would you leave your men
British
there?
began a reckless fleet, and an Anglo-Ottoman force defeated him at Acre, so Napoleon abandoned his men and went back to
So after
France.
defeat, you went back home.
His campaign in Egypt hadn't gone quite as planned. But one thing you should know about Napoleon was that he was a skilled propagandist. He published his own newspapers that sometimes exaggerated his achievements, and even commissioned paintings that generally made him look cool. So when he returned to Paris, he was yet again hailed as a hero, and he began to get some power-hungry ideas.
Okay.
First, however, he had a bit of a problem to deal with. See, he had learned something shocking about his dear wife. Really, Josephine? This guy? I'm
Oh,
just as tall as him. I'm
hippo
sorry. I swear,
guy.
now that you're becoming famous, I'll never do it again. Make
Okay.
sure you don't. I'd never stoop so low as to cheat on you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be in this room consulting my generals for the next 30 minutes.
She's probably going to do
By
it again.
consulting, I mean boinking. By my generals, I mean this woman. And by 30 minutes, I mean 2 seconds.
Oh my god. Wait, all this time, guys, he was cheating on her, and at the same time he was angry that she was cheating on him. Did I hear 2 seconds?
Having dealt with his wife, Napoleon was then approached by a very influential politician who said he had an idea. He wanted to stage a coup against the deeply unpopular government and needed the extremely popular Napoleon's help. And Napoleon thought that was just the darn tootinest idea. The plan was to trap the government and convince them to voluntarily give up their power. And here's how they did it. Hey guys, oh my gosh, quick! There's a dangerous Jacobin plot to overthrow you, which we definitely aren't just making up. Better get inside this cage so we can protect you.
Cage?
Okay.
Prison.
Gentlemen, we got him. In this case, the cage was an isolated palace outside of Paris, with no one around but Napoleon and his army. With the government inside, Napoleon then entered, and a pretty chaotic event ensued, during which the government didn't seem entirely sure what was going on, Napoleon's men didn't seem entirely sure what was going on, and Napoleon himself didn't seem entirely sure what was going on. But thankfully, Napoleon's brother Lucien, president
So
of the
who understood what was going on?
managed to regain control, and the remaining councilmen were intimidated into creating a new constitution. And thus, a new government was formed, this time with 3 consuls in charge. But after
And Napoleon had to be there.
in the end, there was really only one man in charge, the first consul, him. And over the
Bonaparte.
next few years, he worked to consolidate even more power, and essentially became a dictator in total control of France.
Why do they always turn out to be dictators? I don't get it. Why? Hitler, Mussolini, Idi Amin, why do they always seem to start with good intentions? And as people start, paying attention to them, as, they start getting people's support, they just want all power to go to them. Why? Same thing with Lenin. Good intentions, at some point, you end up wanting everything to go through you, everything to be around, everything to be around you. Why?
He was only 30, so maybe it's about time you washed your disgusting bedsheets. France was now
Okay.
ruled by possibly the greatest military leader of the time. Possibly the greatest? Or definitely? Well, now is his chance to prove it. See, back when Napoleon was still in Egypt, being Indiana Jones. Back home,
Indiana
France was
Jones?
France, being France. They had conquered even more territory, and they were like, hey Piedmont, you get revolutionary ideals. Hey Switzerland, you get revolutionary
Just
ideals.
making everyone have revolutionary ideas.
Everybody gets revolutionary
Down with the
ideas,
monarchy.
guys. Nice sledgehammers. And Naples. Very cool nail gun. You guys here to get some revolutionary ideas?
Against
France was
France?
still spreading the revolution, and with Napoleon busy in Egypt, the European powers felt the time was right for round 2, and the War of the Second Coalition began. And this time, their big bad boy buddy Russia was here to bang some French boys back to Bordeaux. And bang,
Russia.
they did. France got blasted. But then Russia Prussia pulled out after stalling in Switzerland, and now that Napoleon was in charge of the country, he was ready to start blasting right back. He took command of the Army of the Reserve, and he brought the fight to the Austrians. Now, there are many traits that made Napoleon a great military leader.
Okay.
I already mentioned one of them, how he was one of the boys and commanded the total loyalty of his men. But now we see a second,
he has his men.
the element of surprise. In 1800, Napoleon moved to Geneva, and it looked like he was probably going to take on the Austrian forces in Germany. There's no way he'd be crazy enough to move his entire army south to the Alps as a surprise attack on the Austrians besieging Genoa. Oh, Napoleon's moving his entire army south to the Alps as a surprise attack on the Austrians besieging Genoa. Napoleon's crossing of the Alps is legendary, and you may have seen one of the most famous paintings of the general, popping a sick wheelie on his majestic stallion, surrounded by dangerous mountain terrain.
Yes, I've seen this picture.
He made the crossing on a depressed mule, but that's not as cool. When
On
he
a mule?
in Italy, the Austrians expected him to come break their siege, but Napoleon went for their supply line near Milan, forcing the Austrians to meet Napoleon head-on at the famous Battle of Marengo. The Austrians initially clobbered the stubborn French, and they were like, hooray, we won. But then a few hours later, Napoleon showed up again with an even bigger army, and he clobbered them right back.
Deception.
Holy cow, this tiny little fun-sized French guy is running rings around us.
Did you just call him fun-sized?
I'm average height for the time, you jerk! Then, after General Moreau's victory at Hohenlinden, Vienna was exposed, and the Austrians again sued for peace. Just like the War of the First Coalition, the Second Coalition ended in another French
victory
But
again.
in many ways, they both felt more like Napoleon victories. Only the UK remained at war with Napoleon, and they were using their powerful navy to blockade French ports and were even seizing the cargoes of neutral ships. Obviously, everyone else got pretty pissed off that the British were interfering with their trade, so in response, they formed a league, and they embargoed the UK right back. Neutral countries protecting their own interests, that's offensive. So Britain went to Copenhagen.
What else do you want them to do?
And the league disbanded. But because the UK's economy was pretty bust, they decided to sign a treaty with France in 1802. For the first time in a long time, Europe was at peace. Congratulations, sire. You've achieved peace.
Good.
Yes, Pierre, but not for long. I still don't trust those dirty Brits. Did you hear they've been calling me the Bony Man? What does that even mean? Keep an eye on them, would you? I can't, sire. Why not?
Why?
Because they use NordVPN. How would you like to spend 12 hours a day on your favorite website ever without the fear of your
The way he comes up with his ads.
NordVPN. NordVPN has thousands
Go
of
ahead.
secure servers in 59
Guys, get
countries, allowing you to
NordVPN.
safely surf the net
At
the
some
fastest
point I
possible
use
speed while
NordVPN.
staying away
I
from
might
all
get
the
it
threats
back now
and
that
cyber
Twitter is
threats.
like banned in
CyberSec.
Nigeria.
NordVPN
But
comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee.
it's actually
And
worth
take
its
advantage
price.
of their new password manager, NordPass, and new encrypted cloud storage solution, NordLocker. NordVPN lets you search for better deals in other territories and unlock content not available in your country, like some oversimplified videos, for example. It's incredibly easy to use. With just a click of a button, you can head off to Canada and watch some sweet Canadian TV, just like that. Go to
Real
nordvpn.com
Housewives of Newfoundland.
to get a 2-year
Never heard
plan
of
plus
it.
one additional month with a huge discount. That's nordvpn.com/oversimplified. And as always, you'll be supporting my channel. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Now where were we? Oh yeah. Crossing the Alps, defeating the Austrians, and Europe at peace.
Okay.
What a meteoric rise
Peace
it had
after the
been
war.
for the young Corsican. He had just taken charge of a nation that appeared to be losing a war and turned it all around, securing French gains in Europe. But there was now a big question. You see, throughout the chaotic French Revolution, French governments had struggled to keep the economy afloat. They often didn't have a whole lot of support, and they frequently came and went.
How
When
many
Napoleon
thousands of
finally
people
the
did
man
they
who could stick
behead?
around, military victories were one thing, but could the general also govern? Spoiler alert. Yes. The economy's crumbling? Well then why don't you have yourself a new national bank, currency reform, and improved taxation and welfare systems? The legal system is an incoherent mess? Well then why don't we nicely wrap all those civil laws up into one new centralized legal code? Corrupt government officials? Throw them in the trash. Bad infrastructure? Throw it in the trash. Women's rights?
At
Throw
least-
it in the trash. Wait.
But women's rights?
Unfortunately, while Napoleon was building on the equality of the revolution, he also largely scaled back rights for certain groups, and husbands had full legal control over their wives. But come on,
No.
ladies, maybe let men have a slice of the pie.
Oh, this is his picture? Well, now I get why they said he was ugly. But he's not ugly, he just doesn't look like the, you know when you see heroes in movies, when they tell you, oh, this guy went to war and he defeated this guy, went to war and it was victory, this guy is a badass. Well, you wouldn't expect him to look like this. So I see where that, oh, it's ugly, it looks sick, he looks sickly. I see where it's coming from. But you know, brain, genius.
Once. Okay. Napoleon further reformed education, ensuring a system based on individual ability, meaning now Simeon had to compete with everyone else. And Napoleon
Yes,
had to
Simeon,
get the
use your
creative
brain.
crop to help him run the republic. But he wasn't just building on the ideas of the revolution. The revolution had led to a lot of chaos, and Napoleon needed stability.
Cutting
So he pulled back a
heads.
couple things, most notably with religion. The revolution had pretty much kicked the Catholic Church to the curb, but Napoleon understood that since many French citizens still considered themselves Catholic, that could be a problem. So he came to an agreement with the Pope and brought back the Church, only this time with some pretty hefty power limitations. He
Like?
also ensured freedom for other religions, and is often noted for his positive treatment of Jewish people at a time of widespread anti-Semitism. But while all of this may make Napoleon sound like a pretty stand-up dude, it's good to note that he believed in religious freedom because he thought it was a powerful tool to keep the poor from eating the rich, or something like that. Overall, Napoleon's aim was to end the chaos of the revolution.
So let me guess, he didn't give women enough freedom, but he gave religious freedom. How does religion see women? Completely independent? I understand anyway.
And finally create a stable and prospering French republic. And in that aim, he seemed to be largely successful and generally popular with the people of France. He officially declared that the revolution is over,
Good.
adding, "I am the revolution." Napoleon's head could be seen for miles. Of course, not everyone was happy with Napoleon's reforms. Conservatives felt he was too radical. Radicals felt he was too conservative. But since Napoleon was a dictator, opposition could usually be stamped out with some good old-fashioned iron fisting. In 1804, Napoleon took one last major step. After some failed attempts were made to assassinate him, he wanted to strengthen his position and ensure
They
his
tried
dynasty
to assassinate
would live on
him?
after him. And so he decided being first consul for life simply wasn't quite enough. He decided he should become emperor. He held
Emperor?
it up, asking the French people if they were cool with the idea, and they returned it definitely not great, 99.9% in favor.
We even
Balls
asked
on this
people.
man. And so on the 2nd of December, 1804, in an elaborate ceremony at Notre Dame, Napoleon was made emperor. The Pope was even invited to attend.
You guys don't want the monarchy, right? You are totally against the monarchical system. And then your go-to guy becomes a dictator. And then he asks you, okay, should I deviate from being a dictator? Should I be an emperor? Isn't an emperor kind of like a branded up dictator? It's still the same thing. And they said, yeah, they actually said yes.
And normally, he would crown an emperor, but to make sure everyone knew this wasn't some Charlemagne-style circular power division, Napoleon lifted the crown and placed it on his own head.
By himself.
Like I said, the ball's on this man. He was now emperor of the French. Well, Napoleon,
And they let
you
him.
were general. Then he became first consul for
General,
life. And now
first
you're
consul,
emperor.
and now
Is
emperor.
it enough yet? Is
Yes.
your ambition finally satisfied?
Yes.
I don't know, Pierre. What comes after emperor? I would
Nothing.
say God, sire. You want to be a god?
No.
Yes. I'll put it down under maybe. Okay, everyone. What the hell is going on? This Corsican guy showed up out of nowhere, and he's kicking our ass. He's
Yes.
exporting the ideas of the French Revolution wherever he goes. And he just declared himself King of Italy and Emperor. He can't do that. I'm the Emperor. Oh, hey, fellow monarchs. I see you're having a monarch party. My invite must have got lost in the mail. I'll just set up a spot right here.
Okay.
Wow. You don't belong here, Napoleon. We're coming to take you down. I'd like to see you try.
I smell
Oh,
war.
I'm so scared I just pooped my pants. Hey,
Did you?
everyone. I just pooped my pants.
It's not funny.
No, but I did just poo my pants. Before
You actually
Napoleon had
did.
even declared himself emperor, the British had already redeclared war on France because both sides had been violating their previous treaty. Napoleon immediately occupied Hanover and then began making plans for a great British invasion, partially paid for by selling a huge chunk of land to the United States. Napoleon gathered his army along the English Channel, but here was the problem. While Napoleon's powerful army would almost certainly obliterate the British on land, there was very little chance he'd actually make it across the Channel, because Britannia ruled the waves.
They
This
did.
power dynamic would keep the two traditional enemies from engaging in much
History-wise, they did.
throughout the Napoleonic Wars. However, the British had something else up their sleeve: copious amounts of money. They were willing to throw cash at anyone who would go to war against Napoleon, and there were plenty of takers. Austria, Russia, Naples, and Sweden,
all the countries he fought against,
back in its place, formed a third coalition against France. The coalition forces probably thought that this time they stood a chance. They weren't prepared for the total humiliation they were about to suffer.
That's the problem with, I don't know, with countries that like to conquer and conquer and conquer other countries. As long as you keep invading other countries, fighting and everything, you just keep making enemies. Like, look at all the countries that are against France alone. So much enemies.
The War of the Third Coalition was Napoleon at his best. We've already learned two
Who
ways
gets the
in which
victory in
Napoleon was
this
a
one?
great military commander, but here comes one of the biggest reasons: speed. He had reorganized his army into corps, which were themselves basically small armies. Each had their own infantry, cavalry, and artillery, and as a result, was able to act more independently. They spread out through the countryside, and by living off the land, rather than relying on heavy supply trains, they were able to move extremely quickly. Napoleon would traverse massive distances, outmaneuver his enemies, isolate them, and then move in for the kill, before they even knew what was going on. Lightning warfare leading to total destruction.
He
Would you like to
seems
see it?
like a good
Here we go.
tactician.
Part of the coalition's plan was for the Russians to meet up with the Austrians and take on Napoleon together. Combined, they could turn the tide against him, so Napoleon needed to stop them from ever meeting. But he's all the way over in Boulogne. No problem.
That would seem
In a
like the
matter
right
of
thing to
weeks,
do.
Napoleon marched 200,000 men in secret, encircling Austrian General Mack and capturing his entire army. A devastating blow. Napoleon later remarked, "I have destroyed the Austrian army by simply marching." Next, he turned to face the approaching
Ouch.
Russians. "Okay, it looks like the French are coming for us, but check this out. I've got an amazing idea.
What
When
is
they
it?
approach, we run away." Sir,
What?
you're a genius. The Russians
What?
began to retreat with Napoleon giving chase, and since his
A
tactics
genius
were
of running?
victories, this could be a problem, especially because the longer the war went on, the more likely it looked other countries may join the coalition against him. But Napoleon knew the Russian Tsar Alexander I was young and seeking glory.
The battery is
So he came
getting
up with
low.
an idea to lure him in.
Hope I finish
He
this
sent
video.
out a message. What does it say? It says, "Hello, I'm just a little baby boy, and I'm very scared." Are you talking like that, or is he? He is, sir. Why is he doing that? I don't know.
Pooping.
He's very cute, helpless, and vulnerable. A little baby boy, eh?
Who else
Very
would it be?
scared, eh? Cute, eh? Boys, get my crossbow. We're going hunting.
Hunting.
The Allied forces turned to face Napoleon, who they now believed was in a vulnerable position. He
Okay.
was set up at Austerlitz, and to make it look like he was retreating, he had even evacuated the high ground.
Well, it's
At
just
Fort
battle
Fox,
after
obscured
battle after
Napoleon's
battle.
center, as the Allies took the bait and set up on the heights. From there, they spotted Napoleon's very weak-looking right flank, and they descended the heights to go get it. Little did they know, it was exactly what Napoleon was hoping they'd do. The next thing they knew, a large French force
Everyone
was
else
emerging from the
joins.
fog, launching a huge central assault up the hill.
And you're all
They
alone.
swung around, crushing the Allies, and as men attempted to flee across the frozen lakes, Napoleon ordered his artillery to fire on the ice, causing an unknown number to drown. But he told me he was just a little baby boy. What happened? He tricked you, sir. You mean I was the little baby boy all along?
Yes.
It was Napoleon's masterpiece, and Austria were once again forced to make peace with France. Then, with the French conquest of Naples in 1806, the War of the Third Coalition ended as yet another
French
Napoleon
victory. Again.
This was the third time Napoleon had to give Austrian Emperor Francis a good spanking. And so, with the peace treaty in 1805, Napoleon was determined to punish him. He was
Austria
forced
gets
to give up
punished
territory,
severely.
hand over significant compensation, and promised never to fight Napoleon again. For now, Russia, Sweden, and the UK remained at war with France, but none were able to offer much of a threat. And
Yeah,
so,
he was just too
Napoleon had to
powerful.
work, strengthening his grip over Europe. He gave out rule of captured territories to his family and friends. And most
Family?
notably, he established a new confederation in Germany,
See
with
that?
himself as its protector. Seeing his influence in Germany being wiped away, Emperor Francis acknowledged reality and officially dissolved the Holy Roman Empire. an entity that had
Wow.
existed for over 1,000 years. But it wasn't all good news for Napoleon. For one thing, Spain had earlier allied with France in 1804 because the British just couldn't help themselves from blowing up Spanish ships, and Napoleon hoped the combined French-Spanish fleet would eventually be able to invade England. Unfortunately, he received word that British Admiral Nelson had engaged his fleet at Trafalgar. Normally, naval battles looked like this, but in this case, Nelson did this. Was it because he was an idiot? No, it's because he was a genius. He successfully punched through the Franco-Spanish line and unleashed hell. His victory
Side by
ensured
side.
British control of the sea, and his death during the battle made him a legend.
He died in the
Napoleon's hopes
battle.
for a future British invasion were gone. But not just that. Napoleon was also hoping to secure peace on the continent, but that wasn't looking likely because the Prussian king was under pressure from his wife. Frederick, he's established a confederation in our turf, and he told us he'd give us Hanover, but then offered it to the British. You have to declare war on him. What is it with you and war? What is
Again?
it with you and being a cupcake? Go to war! Okay. In October 1806, Prussia, with its famed military tradition, joined the coalition and declared war,
Against
the war
France.
of the Fourth Coalition. Unfortunately, Prussian King Frederick William III wasn't the smartest tool in the shed. Look at him over there, being all French. Makes me sick. Boys, we'll get him this time. But here's the thing. This time, we have to stick together. Do not under any circumstances face Napoleon by yourself. You all saw what happened to Austria, but...
Is he going to face him himself?
You jerk. Think you're some kind of big shot? Huh? Want to tangle with Fred? You don't got the cojones. We're screwed. Without consulting its allies, Prussia had gone ahead and sent Napoleon an ultimatum demanding he move all his forces out of Germany. Now, some of you watching this video probably can't even wipe your own bum yet, but even you know, you don't just send Napoleon an ultimatum. Obviously, Napoleon went in for the kill. Prussia's army was quite outdated, so when they met Napoleon at the twin battles of Jena and Auerstedt, it wasn't even close. Even Marshal Davout's
Why would you even want to attack him on your own?
Napoleon carried out a ruthless pursuit of his fleeing enemy, taking Berlin and within a single month decimating the Prussian forces. Frederick William and the remnants of his army moved to the east. At this point, Napoleon's forces were pretty tired. Winter had
How wouldn't they be tired? They've been fighting and fighting.
both sides with
And now it's winter.
quarters, but Russia decided to try their hand at an unexpected winter attack. A series of brutal battles followed that took a heavy toll on both sides, including the vicious Battle of Eylau, fought in blizzard conditions. Men froze to death, and many deserted. The Russian artillery tore the French to shreds, and Napoleon himself was momentarily under risk of being captured.
That's like a first
In the end,
defeat.
The French army was saved thanks to a legendary cavalry charge by Napoleon's flamboyant cavalry commander, Murat. After the horror inflicted on both sides, they decided it might be a good idea not to do any more fighting until after winter. Then, after winter came, and the fighting continued. The Russians
Again?
were pushed back to Friedland, where Russian General Bennigsen made a bit of a blunder by positioning himself with the Aller River to his back. The French artillery were able to pin the Russians between the river and their concentrated gunfire, a major element in Napoleon's fighting style, and many Russians drowned as they tried to escape. War of the Fourth Coalition. Victory, Napoleon.
Again, that's 4 out of 4. Came to an end, and thank you, my laptop, for not dying. Anyway, guys, okay, I did learn, more than I knew about him before, but well, it's really nice the way these guys take all these stories and just break it down in simple ways that you can, understand. Hence, it being oversimplified. I didn't know. Take for example, I knew he won battles, but I thought he won like 2 great battles or something. This is the first video, and he's already won like 4 battles. French victory after French victory after French victory after French victory. That's impressive. I'm so eager to see what stopped him. I'm guessing it's probably going to be British related. I don't know if Britain will join Russia, but it seemed like the Russians kind of like, held him off a bit, unlike other territories that he tried to take over. So I'll check that out in the next video. So okay, It's okay, fine, you can die now, laptop. So guys, thanks for staying with me. Please guys, subscribe if you are new, like this video and drop comments. Please drop comments. um I haven't really been constant on YouTube. I'm just trying to, make this a serious thing with work and everything in between. So it would really, really help me. It would motivate me if you guys just drop comments and like this video. Also, you can tell me other videos that you would want me to react to, and I'll make the time to get to it. So thank you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye.